My next guest is Loren Brody. Loren is an elementary school principal on the East Coast. He is also a husband, father of two teenagers, amateur violinist, dedicated swimmer, vegetarian cook, mindfulness devotee, and a new triathlete. Welcome to the podcast, Loren.
Thank you so much, Dana. It is an honor to be here.
Well, thanks so much for being on the Out of the Trenches podcast. Lauren and I have known each other for quite a while as being on the Better Leaders, Better Schools mastermind. And we've met each other a few times in person. And we'll talk a little bit about something you started after we met last in person. But we'll start off with the story of a couple times that you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
Sure. So this is my fourth year as a principal at my current school. It's an elementary school. And we had a really challenging situation this year where we needed to do a school-wide evacuation. Uh, and it was a scary situation. We were so fortunate the staff were really prepared with our emergency procedures and were able to really help everyone get out of the building quickly into our location where we needed to go. And the procedures really worked the way they were supposed to. But again, it was just a really hard situation, even with all of that, going well, because it was scary. It was frightening for everyone involved, the staff, the students, the parents too. And it wasn't something that we could just kind of, after it was over and everyone was okay, fortunately, we couldn't just come back and and get back into business as usual and life at school as it was before
Mhm.
the incident. And so I was really grappling as a school leader in how do I our guide our faculty to have an opportunity to process uh, and start to heal from
Mhm.
their going through it, and at the same time create a space for students to do that too, and then to reach out to parents uh, for all that they were feeling from what happened as well. And through some of the great mastermind coaching
Mhm.
references that you mentioned a little bit earlier, I think at the beginning, uh, I was able to find some resources around how groups can process critical incidents like that and do some reading about it quickly because I wanted to make sure I uh, responded quickly with my school community to support them, and also talk to some experts in the field, both in my district and also outside the district. And it was really helpful to get that perspective and also to get some of the research behind what works really well, because what we ended up doing was kind of breaking up the recovery process into two different parts. Like we separated out like the feedback part, like learning from the specific logistics. Like that was
Mhm.
definitely one part of it. But the other part was really processing our emotions and also
Yeah.
sharing our experiences, because even teachers who are on the same grade level team didn't experience the incident the same as other teachers, and we needed to facilitate group sharing around what happened. So
Mhm.
we had a meeting with the entire faculty where we were able to do that, and I was able to share some of the framing of you know our purpose in coming together to share our experiences later on, to learn from those experiences, but right now to share those experiences, hear one another, and support one another in remembering what happened, and also in uh, coming to terms with what happened,
Mhm. Mhm.
and understanding how others felt in that same situation,
Yeah.
on the different teams. And the process of it was called a group processing
Mhm.
uh, of a critical incident, and having like first framing in the whole group, then having small team conversations, then sharing out again with the whole group, and then sharing resources, wellness resources,
Mhm. Mhm.
therapeutic resources available to the staff, really went a long way to helping us reconnect with one another and feel whole as a
Mhm.
team, uh, which then translated to us being able to kind of take a collective deep breath together. And we literally did that together too,
Yeah.
but metaphorically as well, take that deep breath and then be able to be present with students to help them to do the same kind of processing and get back into the routines that help them be successful.
Yeah. So important that you started with the staff and you
Yeah.
work through those processes together. And then just going through having people share out, and then really going, I would say, deconstructing the incident with the staff was, like you said, very helpful, and not just
Yeah.
expecting them to um, go back to teaching, and without having some type of a pause and a time to reflect on the incidents. So really,
Excellent.
yeah, effective. And I think that, prepares you for anything that might happen that might be similar in the future. You've also been leveraging some outside partnerships as well, for your school to help increase resilience. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, so important and so much a part of our equity work, really striving to be uh, more and more inclusive
Hmm.
as a school community and reaching out to all of our families and reaching out to all of our staff members
Hmm.
and 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 being really aware of ways that we need to strengthen our relationships and also center the experiences of staff members and community members and students uh, whose experiences haven't necessarily been centered, and especially for our in our community, our African American and our Latino uh, staff members and community members, uh, and and overall our community members of color, and making sure that those experiences are centered more in our
Hmm.
reflections, in our planning, and in our leadership. And so one of the ways that we've done that is leveraging, like you said, outside partnerships. And one of the partnerships that we've been really fortunate to leverage has been with an organization called Kindred Communities.
Okay.
And Kindred Communities has helped us tremendously uh, in two ways. One is with leadership coaching that's been very meaningful for me and for our assistant principal, uh, and expanding from there to include a number of our teacher leaders, as well as some of our counseling team members and our main office team members, and working really closely with facilitators from that organization who uh, are real experts and experienced in really building a grassroots approach to being an inclusive school community or inclusive organization. They've really helped us lay the groundwork for leadership dialogues um,
Hmm.
among our teacher leadership team with our school administration, where we get to know each other on a deeper level and in a deeper way, including through an equity lens, which has been really important.
Hmm.
Um, we've shared stories about one another's experiences ourselves in school growing up, and that's been incredibly eye-opening. And we've uh, learned about other really meaningful, important experience in one another's lives, and then we've connected that learning uh, to uh, to what's happening in our school community, and research and literature on the equity needs in schools more broadly.
Hmm.
And from there, we've created real capacity
Hmm.
uh, among our teacher leadership and our school leadership together uh, to have to plan events in our school community
Yeah.
that take that spirit and build on it to be inclusive and to focus on equity. So, for example, we've had community conversations in our school community this past year that have been fun, and they've also involved really really genuine discussions with families, getting their feedback about how things are going at school and what recommendations they have for us to
Mhm.
strengthen relationships and improve the experience that they have and their students have at the school. So uh, I don't think any of that would have happened as quickly as it did, and
Mhm.
to the full extent that it did without having that really meaningful partnership uh, relationship, because the facilitators, they provide that great leadership coaching for us,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is important because you can't know it all as a school leader. It's really helpful, or as a school leadership team, it's really helpful to have sometimes an outside facilitator coach come in with a particular area of expertise to help to accelerate growth,
Yeah.
for the staff. And then at the same time, they also help facilitate some of the meetings with families and the community that I was referencing. And I learned from their facilitation too. And so now my assistant principal and I have been doing much more together with some of our teacher leaders. We've been doing such more leadership in those meetings, and we've been it's been transferring gradually to us, where we can have the capacity now to do what the facilitators have been modeling for us. So that's been an excellent partnership for our school community.
Mhm. So how long has this partnership been going on?
So it has been going on now for, see, it went on for all of last school year,
Okay.
and it is going to continue. Uh, we're going to continue working with one of the facilitators this school year.
Mhm.
And it started a little bit before last school year. Uh, I'm trying to think back now, but so maybe a year and a half or so at this
Mhm.
point.
Mhm. Yeah, so definitely a good launching point to, train the teacher leaders through working with equity and really, bringing in all voices, not only from staff members, but community members as well,
Yeah,
to, have that effect upon all the whole population of the school, right? And I think,
yeah,
like you said, it's something you've been working with and getting help from the um, that organization, one kindred community. So definitely, I think a great way to keep this going as you start the 24-25 school year. Um,
definitely. And expand, like you said, like
uh-huh.
it really it leads like as a next step to having leadership come from the community directly. Parents, families taking on more of a leadership role. So we're really excited about making that a bigger point for this.
Hmm. Hmm. So you like to have a nice work but life balance. What does that look like for you? I mentioned a few things in your bio, but you have
Yeah,
several interests. What
yeah,
would you like to share about some of your hobbies?
sure. Well, I do think work-life balance is so important. It's important for everyone who works on the school team for
Mhm.
sure. Uh, because in order to bring my fun and my energy uh, to the school, I need to feel that energy
Mhm.
available to me, and that comes from having opportunity to rejuvenate, and also um, have great experiences outside of work too. So I have a couple of areas where I've really enjoyed branching out, and then kind of bringing that positive energy back to school too. I mean, for me, work-life balance does mean having boundaries in terms of making sure that work does end at a certain point during
Yeah.
the day, and then the rest of the day, the evening begins, and unless there's an emergency going on, uh, that that I do wait, to really deal with anything that's come up until the next day. So having some afternoons and a lot of evenings
Mhm.
to be able to spend with my family, as well as to exercise. I've gotten really into, as one of my hobbies now, training for triathlons. I did my
Mhm.
first triathlon this past spring, and it was very exciting. It was not easy at all, but I enjoyed it all the way,
Uh-huh.
because it was such a good challenge. And actually, when you and I had a chance to jog together on the National Mall when we got to spend time together. in Washington, D.C. For one of the conference, one of the leadership conferences here. That was a super good intro. So I have to say thank you, Dana, for
Mhm.
inspiring me with the running, because then I was like, okay, I can do this running. I just need
Yeah.
some more practice. And it really was about being consistent and making sure I set aside time, once or twice a week
Hmm.
to work on the walking and the jogging, which eventually turned into more of a running and walking and then more running. So I built up to being able to do a 5K run, and then from there it's like, okay, I can do the 5K part of this sprint mini triathlon that I was
Yeah.
excited about. The swimming I've been doing for a while, because I just love swimming at least once a week,
Uh-huh.
sometimes twice a week for years now, because that's something I grew up doing. I found again, um, not too long ago, and I've been doing it for several years. So the swimming I had, but then I had to add the biking part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was new. And I had to take the old rusty bike out of the out of the carport and get it tuned up and make sure it was safe and everything. But I took care of all that, and then, I you know, I started practicing. I actually did some indoor stationary bike work too to help me train,
Mhm.
which worked out well.
Uh-huh.
And then just kind of training for each part individually, and then eventually putting it all together, like 2, 3 times a week,
Hmm.
making sure that I set aside time for it. And then lo and behold, the time came for the triathlon. It was June 16th,
Hmm.
and it was a Father's Day triathlon, so that was kind of cool. And I got through it.
Hmm.
And so, now I'm you know, ready for the next one. I don't know when that next one is yet,
Uh-huh.
but I would like
Uh-huh.
to do another one, because it's just kind of like, it was exhilarating, really, to be around, all the other triathletes. And there were a lot of first timers too when I did it. So that was good.
Hmm.
But it gives me more energy also. Honestly, the energy comes back to me at work, because when I'm in better shape, I can bring that back to school. I can be more energetic, outside in the morning greeting students, and at
Yeah.
lunchtime going to the cafeteria. I mean, just being physically fit and active for sure has uh, major pluses at work too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of reasons as a principal not to take the extra time to work out
yeah,
and
I know.
train for something like that, or
Right.
be involved in an orchestra like you, or playing
Yeah.
the violin. But like you
Yeah.
said, it invigorates you. It helps you start your day better. It keeps you in a good mood. Before
Right.
we hit record, we were talking about the fact that you do play your violin sometimes in the hallways.
Yes.
Cool. So
I love that.
how does that affect the students? Do they find it like neat, or like they want to start playing the violin? How do they react?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, first of all, it's just been fun.
Yeah.
Uh, and they always want me to, they request, some of them request songs.
Yeah.
I'm definitely needing to, study up on my Taylor Swift songs now, uh, especially for the fourth graders and the fifth graders,
Yeah.
because, they kind of might want me to play more of what they know. But we have a school-wide talent show,
Yeah.
and 2 school years ago, I decided to play in the talent show, and I
Mhm.
decided, no, I'm going to go back and I'm really going to relearn one of the songs that I used to play when I grew up classically trained, um,
Mhm.
learning violin. So I'm going to go back to one of the songs that I learned in high school myself, and I'm going to relearn it again, and that's what I'm going to do for the talent show. So I learned the Fiocco Allegro. It's a
Mhm.
really fast piece, and a fun piece, upbeat piece.
Yeah.
And I did that at the talent show, and that really like opened up all the students' eyes to, like, whoa, Mr. Brody doesn't just play, um, like silly, funny stuff in the hall or in the cafeteria. Like, he's also
Mhm.
like serious about this, and I think that was it was fun for me. It helped me connect with students, because now they had something they could always talk to me about and ask me about. Um, and then I would turn to playing, fun and silly stuff too, in the cafeteria, in the hallway. Sometimes it gets a little bit out of hand in the cafeteria. I have to be careful, because they can get really excited when I start to play, especially if it's a song where they're participating by clapping. But 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 we enjoy it together. And I do think, like my music teacher, one of our music teachers has told me that she does think that it also really helps show students that they're learning instruments throughout at least the upper grades in elementary school, and then it shows them like this is a lifelong thing, even if you don't become a music
Mhm.
teacher or a professional musician. Uh, this is something that can be an awesome part of your life forever. So
Yeah.
uh, that's really cool too.
Yeah, no, it's important to instill in kids that knowledge that like, they can do it for fun and they don't have to be a professional musician and it's something that brings I mean that's also the energy piece, right? When
Yeah,
you're playing music in the hallways and getting the kids pumped up or playing songs that they like
right. Yeah,
helps you connect with the kids as well. So,
yeah.
as I mentioned at the beginning, we met through the Better Leaders, Better Schools Mastermind, and you've been a member, I think, like since 2017, correct?
It might even be 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how, just kind of sum up how being in the mastermind helps you and helps you be a better leader in terms of just learning about some of these things like working through that crisis situation and the community partnerships like you talked about at the beginning. What are
Yeah.
some reasons I would say for leaders to explore being part of a mastermind?
Well, it becomes a wonderful network
Hmm.
on a weekly basis, right? So it's there for you on a weekly basis, and it helps you like in a crisis situation. It's a community that's there for you because um, there's there's an opportunity through a part of the mastermind group sessions to be on the hot seat where you share, a really urgent uh, or crisis situation that you're dealing with at your school, and you ask for feedback from your mastermind colleagues, other principals or administrators or teacher leaders, as well as the mastermind facilitator. Um, it's really supportive too, and you can get some outside. You can get some one-on-one coaching too. That can be
Hmm.
really helpful. Like to me, that one-on-one coaching in the crisis situation was very beneficial, and also helped connect me with an outside resource, uh,
Hmm.
expert on that kind of a situation that I might have had more difficulty connecting with on my own. So that's really great. And then it's just hearing the other perspectives of really thoughtful mastermind members
Hmm.
talk about their own experiences, and you learn from that. I know I definitely learn from that all the time as well. So and it's also really helpful for me that it's not, uh, it's not my school, my particular school or district or even region or area. It's the mastermind members are from throughout the country or even some internationally based administrators, and that's really helpful too because
Hmm.
you can get other ideas that might not surface otherwise. Uh, because they just they just come from a different perspective or set of rules sometimes too, and you can kind of sit out. You can get more outside of the box that way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think if people are able to take the time to just participate in a group like that once a week, find times that people meet that works with your schedule, in that smaller group setting. I
yeah,
know when we started in the same group, there were maybe 12 people, and now it's about
yeah.
five.
Right.
But also, when you have a smaller group, you have more of a time to share. You're not just listening as much. But there is also a book study component. What is the book the group is now reading?
So let's see. We recently came off of application time, I think,
Mhm.
where there wasn't a specific uh, focus. Um, but man's search. So it got really philosophical
Yeah.
recently with a focus on man's search for meaning. Uh, uh, but uh, really uh, really thought-provoking,
Mhm,
and kind of deeper questions about what our role is as educators, and just also how do we stay hopeful,
mhm,
um, even under incredibly um, difficult circumstances. So that's Viktor Frankl's book that I know that the mastermind uh, leader Danny Bauer, has been a huge admirer of, and has has brought that thinking to us before too. Um, but I was recently traveling. Actually, it was interesting. I was had an opportunity to travel with my family to
mhm.
Vienna, Austria, so I got to see the apartment where Viktor Frankl once lived. So that
Mm.
was that was an amazing connection. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
no, and it's not so often that the mastermind reads books that are maybe written from somebody who's like, experienced something in history.
yeah, exactly.
Often they're leadership books, but they are not from educators.
Yeah,
But like there have been books that are read by, that are some thought-provoking and philosophical type things to
yeah,
help you think. But having that opportunity in the mastermind group to discuss the book is really how that ties to people's jobs is a really important piece of it because it's
yeah.
not just the time that person's in the hot seat. There is that book discussion piece as well.
Yeah, and some of the books, like you said, are not from education, but still, they can still be usually helpful. Like, for example, the book The Culture Code
Hmm.
uh, by Daniel Coyle. That was one that I remember my assistant principal and I ended up like going back to and uh, and really combing through for specific ideas we were going to use with our staff, and we ended up using a
Hmm.
number of them. So yeah, that's a really good point about the books.
Well, we've had a great discussion today about some of the things that you've learned being in the mastermind that have helped you work through a crisis situation at your school and leveraging outside partnerships, and also how do you spend time outside of work to be more reinvigorated at work. Out of everything we've talked about today, what's one thing you'd like listeners to remember?
Remember to take care of yourselves and find experiences that are meaningful for yourself outside of work,
Yeah,
that then what can boomerang back and give you that extra energy and that extra positive drive at work too.
yeah, yeah, that's so important. Where can people connect with you and find you online?
My LinkedIn page is the best place right now, Loren Brody, and I'd be uh, excited to connect with you there.
Great. I will make sure I put that in the show notes. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being my guest on the Out of the Trenches podcast today.
Oh, it's been fun. Thanks for connecting with me, Dana.